Okay, so let's go over the answers first for the last episode that we just watched, and then we will move on to episode 6. Um, you guys have been doing great, so just keep going. I know some of you are into this and some of you aren't, but it still is really interesting. You never know, it might help you one day. So the first question, if you flip to that, you season 1, episode 5, um, how many people thought that Avery was innocent, and it was only one. Only one person out of the 130 questionnaires thought that he was innocent. That means he didn't commit the crime. So, what does that imply about media coverage of the case at the time, and how might that influence the verdict? So, what happens in the case? So, it's showing that media coverage is bad, essentially, and that the verdict will likely be guilty. So, if everybody thinks he's guilty, he probably will be proven guilty, right? So, how does the information in the article about the selection of the jury conflict with the information given by Avery's lawyers regarding the potential jurors? So this is number 3. So originally, the judge dismissed one guy because he said, oh, Avery is guilty and that's the only thing that he can be, and it's a cut and dry situation. But in the next scene, we find out that almost every single one of them, sorry, the first question is innocent. Almost every single one of them thought that he was guilty. So it was silly that the judge dismissed one guy, but then ended up being most of the jurors thought he was guilty. If I'm going too fast, just pause, write down the answer, and then keep going. So number 4 is, do you think that having a jury chosen from nearby Calumet County would have been less biased? Why or why not? So this is kind of your opinion. Calumet is where Teresa is from, and it's where the trial is being held, but Manitowoc jurors or citizens were the jurors. So do you think that having the people from a different area would have made them less biased? Possibly, because they already knew who Stephen Avery was. It's a small community. But at the same time, it could have been bad because that's where Teresa Hallback's from. So they would have supported her. So it's just your opinion. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is the original charges. The original charges against Stephen Avery. So the first charge is first degree homicide. So he killed someone. The next one is mutilating a corpse. Mutilating a corpse, which means cutting up a body when it's dead. The next one is possession of a firearm. Remember, he was a convicted felon, so he wasn't supposed to have a firearm. Number 4 is false imprisonment, so holding somebody against their will. Number 5 is kidnapping. And number 6 is sexual assault with a deadly weapon. So if you remember, Brendan Dassey's two of his were thrown out, and that was the last 2. So what you're supposed to circle is the first 4. So just circle those. All right, I'm going to move on to the next page. What does the state intend to prove regarding the blood evidence? So remember, they found the vial and there was a hole in it, and so Stephen Avery's defense was like, yes, that means that somebody tampered with this, somebody messed with this. But the state is like, no, 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 no. The FBI is going to develop a test that proves the blood inside Teresa's car is not from that vial. So the answer is they want to prove the blood wasn't planted, so put there on purpose. And that means Avery's lawyers are worried because what do they say? They say, I don't trust the FBI. So, I mean, they have all reason not to trust all these people. I mean, that's their job. They already messed up with Stephen. Okay, number 6, during opening speeches, what proof does Dean Strang use to show Manitowoc County's involvement in the case? Cite evidence from the documentary to support your answer. So there's a phone recording, and when they find the car, the RAV4, Manitowoc calls the lady and he's like, we found the car. Do you know if we have a body yet? And they're like, no, I'm not sure. And he's like, but we have Stephen Avery in custody, right? So the answer is they ask if Avery is in custody after finding Teresa's car. So they automatically assume that Stephen did it, which I feel like is a fair assumption. Her car is on there, but they don't even look into anybody else. So okay. How does Kratz manipulate Bobby Dassey's testimony so much that the defense calls for a mistrial? Kratz says that November the 3rd, Kratz says, the lawyer guy says, this happened on November the 3rd, right? And Bobby just keeps going, even though the conversation happened on November the 11th. The judge does not instruct the jury to dismiss the testimony, and he doesn't correct the mistake. So it is a known fact that when Bobby, that's Stephen's, I think, nephew or something like that, Brendan's brother, calls and is like, oh, I want to help me get rid of the body. That actually happened on November 11th, but Kratz is trying to say it happened on the 3rd. So they're trying to just mess with everybody. So this is what I wrote for that. Okay. A couple more questions. I'm sure you guys are bored, but you're fine. How does Prosecutor Kratz reflect on the reporter's questions regarding questioning of Bobby Dassey? He's like, it doesn't mean anything. Avery joked about getting rid of a body. That's all that matters. Which, maybe he's right. I don't know. Number 9, do you believe Bobby Dassey's testimony should be stricken, so taken out, or disregarded, so totally just don't even regard it, by the jury, as Avery's lawyers suggest? So what's your opinion? Do you think that Bobby Dassey saying, oh, he called me and we joked about getting rid of a body, do you think that that should be kept in, even though the date was wrong, or do you think it should be thrown out? Why can't Avery's lawyers identify other potential suspects? So this is called the Denny rule. So Denny, like Denny's the breakfast place, the Denny rule. And it's really only in Wisconsin. And essentially the defense cannot suggest a third party. So Avery's lawyers can't even say, oh, well, I think that such and such did it. They can only say, we know Stephen didn't do it. It does protect innocent people from being called, but it hinders the defense. So it makes it hard for the defense to say, hey, he didn't do it, but I bet you, based on the evidence, this guy did. What witnesses from the prosecution might be possible suspects in Teresa's death? So this is your opinion. At this point, after we listen to all those people on the stand, who do you think is responsible for the death out of all the people? Personally, I think it's Mike Callback, because he's a potential suspect, because those erased messages are just super weird. Or Ryan Hilgis, the ex-boyfriend, because he's the one that hacked the phone records. He's the ex-boyfriend, and maybe maybe he's a stalker? I don't know. Creepy. Okay, so you have 2 articles. We're going to skip those just for the purpose of time. We might come back to them when we do our final assignment on here. This last one is a lot. Now, don't worry about this last one. Don't turn in this packet. You and I will go over this on Monday, okay? So, this is your answers for this worksheet. Put this in your folder. This is Season 1, Episode 5. Put this in your folder when you're done. Just throw it in there and keep it. We'll finish up the other part on Monday if we have time. Next up, you need to go to the other video and watch Episode 6. And you should have gotten the questions from the substitute already. All right, have fun. Bye.